Los Angeles, late 80s, early 90s, height of the cocaine wars and the rise of the criminal gangs in Los Angeles and other parts of the country. In Los Angeles at that time, in Santa Monica, there was a man named Lance Thomas, who was a watchmaker and a high-end watch repair person. During this time, several shop owners in the area had been brutally murdered during an armed robbery. So Lance decided to arm himself with a 5-shot Chief Special. This began his odyssey and his private war against the criminal element there in Los Angeles. Now I'm going to do a second video about Lance Thomas's tactics, because after the initial gunfight he was in, and he was in 4, he began staging guns around his shop and taking other protective measures. So we're going to try to duplicate that, and then we'll see how I did. Alright, we did this at 8 yards. Chief Special, Model 10, Star BM9. Our situation was, we saw 3 rapscallions entering my building, armed and dangerous. Alright, I put 3 to the lead guy, then I put 1 to each on either side. Grab the Model 10, 2 rounds to the lead. By this time, the other 2 guys had ducked down, and as those rapscallions ducked down, I put 2 on each target. Came here, lead man still wanting to fight. 2 headshots with the 9mm, then 1 shot high, 1 shot low. Went to the other side, 1 shot high, 1 shot low. Okay, got 4. That was probably my 3rd shot with the Chief Special. Felt like I pulled the trigger a little bit too quickly. Then we got the 2 headshots with the 9mm. Over here, 1 with the 38, 1 with the 9mm. Got 2 38, 1 9mm. Same thing over here, 1 38, 1 9mm. 2 38, 1 9mm. And Lance, in self-defense of his life, the life of his patrons, there in his shop, he fought off 11 armed robbers. He killed 5 of them and wounded a 6th one. Meanwhile, he was wounded 5 times his own self. Now, in at least 2 of the gunfights, he found himself face to face with the barrel of a handgun. Yet he chose to fight. Against the odds, he chose to fight, and he survived. His mindset, when asked by a reporter, and I'll put the clip down here, an interview with Lance, but his mindset was, you know, if this person is putting a gun to my head, if this person is threatening me with the violence, and I go ahead and say, okay, here's my money, you know, take my life, you know, I'm actually leaving myself defenseless and leaving my life. And I'm paraphrasing what Lance said, but I'm giving him all the power by acquiescing to what he's wanting me to do. And I had to have the mindset that either I was going to die or else someone else was going to die. Now, that's not necessarily a popular way to look at self-defense. In fact, I saw a video not too long ago where a young man, he was once again facing down a gun barrel in an armed robbery attempt, and rather than acquiesce, he tried to take the gun away from the robber. Now, in the process, and he was ineffective, the technique he was trying to use was ineffective, and they wrestled around for the gun, and finally the bad guy got away. And the commentator was very critical of what this young man did. And I wouldn't recommend what he did, but he had the mindset he was not going to be a victim, and he fought back. And even though the technique and what he did was ineffective, he survived and the robber fled. And that's something we might need to take away from the story of Lance Thomas. And I want to end with a conversation I had with an attorney from Great Britain a few years back involving firearms and his disdain for firearms as a self-defense implement. And I brought up the very high number of rapes that occur in Great Britain every year. And he made the comment that it was better for a woman to be raped than for her to defend possibly her life and being violated so horrifically than her defending herself with a firearm and maybe killing her attacker. That it was morally repugnant that the woman should just be a victim. And I don't think any of us need to give up that right to defend ourselves. In my next video, we'll talk about the tactics and strategies that Lance used to defend his life, his customers, and his shop. And this is Greg with Lionquestfitness reminding you, always be prepared for the unexpected.